Hey there everybody, it's Caitlin, and the time has come. Tomorrow I return to work after my long and very, very nice, blessed, privileged, if you will, summer of travel and all the fun things. But we have a lot of videos that I want to finish up before work starts up and I get too far behind. So it's also the night to finish up any projects that I have that I didn't get done. So while I am gluing my puzzle that I completed together so it can be hung up and put in a frame, we're going to talk about this book. So this is going to be a book review for all of you guys. So before we get into it, make sure you like, subscribe, especially if you have read this book. Make sure you like and then subscribe if you want to hear more. I just finished this book today. Today we're going to be reviewing The Teacher by Frieda McFadden. For those of you who are not... I did not realize that this glue did not have a brush built in. So, for those of you who... Okay, anyway, for those of you that are new here, I'm Caitlin, your geeky girlfriend, and here on my channel, you can find a lot of random stuff. There are book reviews on here, movie reviews, Taylor Swift stuff, if you're into that, and clothing stuff. So just a lot of random things. So, like I said, today we're going to be reviewing The Teacher by Frieda McFadden as I glue my puzzle together because I want to get it ready to frame. And I just finished this book today. And for those of you who are not familiar, The Teacher is a thriller novel. And I would say, obviously, it is about a teacher, but that is not 100% true. It is originally told through two perspectives. One is a teacher, Eve. She is a high school math teacher. And then the other perspective is a student named Addie who goes to the school where Eve teaches. And she is in Eve's class, but Eve, doesn't really know her that well. And then there are several supporting characters in the book. Now, like I said, I just finished this book today, and I picked it up from the library, I think last weekend, maybe I think on on August 3rd, I picked it up from the library. So it took me just about a week to read it, but the majority of what I read was read last night. So yesterday I sat down to read, and similar to Verity, if you've watched my review of that, you can scroll down here on the channel, because I did review that book last year, a couple years ago. Time really does fly, but similar to Verity, I sat down and was only on page maybe 49 or so, and I read to page almost 300 in one night, last night. So I was up till after midnight reading it, and I still had about 80 pages to go and just didn't want to stay up till 1:30 or 2 in the morning. And so I just decided to finish it today. So I finished it today, and oh my goodness, I finished it a few hours ago, and I still am reeling over this book. You guys know, if you've been here a while, I don't like to do spoilers here in these videos. If you want my spoiler reviews, you can actually go over to my Goodreads, and that is where I review more of the plot details. I will put the trigger warnings in there, and I'll do trigger warnings here on the YouTube channel, but in terms of spoilers, I don't like to tell you guys anything because, I generally, don't even read reviews before I pick up a book, short of if somebody recommended it to me. So if somebody in my book club was like, hey, I think you should read this book, it's really good, or my mom read it and recommended it, I look at a recommendation different than actually reading a review. And for those of you wondering, I am just using the Rose Art puzzle glue, which you can get, I'm pretty sure, at Walmart, but I'm pretty sure mine came from Hobby Lobby. And the only reason I glue it is just so it transfers easier to a frame. Anyway, back to the book. So, I want to talk about a few things in this video. Again, not going to give you any spoilers. I'm actually not going to talk about the plot at all, only to say that the back of the book and the front of the book, so the back and front cover, like, definitely lead the reader to be under a different impression when picking up this book. So, obviously with the knife on the cover, I thought, okay, this is like a teacher is going to get killed or kidnapped by possibly a student or another teacher, or, you know, it's obviously going to take place in a school setting, and obviously someone is going to die because of the knife. And, you know, it's not a spoiler to say that that is true. There is a death that happens like prior to the events of the book, but then there is, you know, with it being classified as a thriller novel, it is safe to assume that somebody is probably going to die or come very, very close to dying. And overall, I would rate this book a 2 ghosties, or like a B-level thriller book. And I actually have an entire video about my thriller book rating system that you can check out. So make sure you go check that out if you want more information on how I came to that rating. And so for that, I'm not going to talk much more about that, but, you know, just know that my heart was pounding for lots of reasons. Now, like I said, this is a thriller, so I kind of knew, and because of the knife on the cover, I kind of expected there to be a death, but I don't know if I was expecting a murder mystery. I don't know if I was expecting what I got out of this novel. So like I said, I finished it a few hours ago. I still cannot really believe what I read. Like, I'm having a hard time like wrapping my head around, like, and I audibly gasped at the end of the book. My heart was pounding. So there's like the end of the book, and then there is a short epilogue. And I audibly gasped at the end of the book. And then I read the epilogue and was like, the whole time, the entire time I was reading the epilogue. I will just cut to the chase and tell you guys that I gave this book 5 stars. It has been a long time since I've rated a book 5 stars, no matter how positively I have raved about a book. So for example, I gave Fourth Wing a very good positive review, but it was still only a 4-star book for me. This one was 5 stars. And what was crazy was, like, I want to say, ooh, I missed a spot. Like a couple days ago when I was like getting towards the end, I was like, yeah, I'll probably give this book a 4-star. Like, it started off kind of slow, but has really picked up and I'm really enjoying it. And so much so that I like was thinking about it when I was at work today and just kind of wanted to come home and read it, which is always a good sign when a book like has you thinking about it, right? And then I read the part today, like the last 80 pages, so that gives you an idea, like up until, like when I was reading it last night, it was a good book, but I still was very much in the 4-star, like, yeah, it's good, but then the last 150 to the last 80 pages, I just could not believe what was happening, and I accidentally spoiled part of the ending for myself, because I always, like, when I read, I always put my bookmark kind of towards the end of the book, so I kind of have a visual of how much further I have to go, you know? And I accidentally saw the, like, who was going to be telling chapter 80, and I was like, But then, I'm telling y'all, the epilogue, oh my gosh, I could not believe it. I don't really want to believe that it's true, but that's just how it is. So similar to Verity, like with the ending of Verity, like that was very much how I felt. So this book got a 5-star review for me. It is my first Frieda McFadden book. However, My book club has another Frieda McFadden book on our list for September. So I will be reading The Housemaid as well. And if it is anything like this one, I can't wait. And I did get it from the library, so unfortunately I do have to take it back, and I kind of regret not buying it, honestly, because this is a book that I wish more of my friends and family would read, so I could talk to them about it, because I am just so floored by the events that I am just like, oh. Not to mention the fact that as the book was starting out, I felt like I had very much in common with Eve, in the fact that she is a teacher and like likes her job, but is kind of more strict and rigid, loves shoes, and like, and just like some of the things that she, like some of the realities that she faces in her marriage, I was just like, wow, this is hitting a little bit close to home. Now, that being said, there are definitely other aspects that I am nothing like her, but when the book was first starting out, like before I knew all of the things that were happening, I really was like, wow, I really, really relate to this character. And like I said, then I read more and found out that no, I really don't have that much in common with this person. However, starting off, that was what kind of compelled me in the beginning. Anyway, this video is getting a little bit long because I just seem to be rambling about this book. But do I think you should read this book? Absolutely. It is a level B thriller. And again, check out my rating system for that, and how I came to that rating. But I really, really enjoyed this book. It is one of the only books I've rated 5 stars this year, as I was saying. And yeah, my heart was pounding. I was gasping audibly. I couldn't believe what I was seeing and reading on the page. And I was just so shook to my core, especially in the end. Was I happy with the ending? Absolutely. For the most part, like, I was happy with the ending, but I was like also a little bit baffled by the ending as well. So yeah, just lots of like shocking moments. And I will say, one of the reviews that I read about this book, like, I was already reading it. I was already like halfway through when I saw this review, but a friend of mine had also rated it and reviewed it on Goodreads, and he said lots of WTF moments. And I think that is the perfect description. I will say, just because I like to put the trigger warnings in these videos, this book does depict sexual activity, but not to the extent to make it a spicy book. So if you watched my Let's Talk About Peppers video, I actually did an entire video on how I rate spicy romance books, because that's a genre that I am discovering, and the more that I read, I'm realizing that I rate things a lot differently than other people. So I just decided to come up with my own rating system, and so I encourage you to watch that video, but not to plug myself. However, this book does have some sex scenes, but they are all considered to be closed door, in that there's no actual description of what is happening other than like the disrobing, kissing, like you get all of that, but you don't get anything else. So there's no, like, I guess there is one instance where one of the female characters notes a male character's erection, but it's only one time, and she doesn't even name it. She just kind of says that something was poking her. So it still is very innocent, very like has that naivete factor to it. I want to give another trigger warning, but I don't want to spoil the book. So yeah, I think if you want a spoil, go to my Goodreads and check it out there, because I really don't want to spoil the book. I will just say that this is an adult book and should only be read and enjoyed. Probably, like, yeah, should only be read by adults. This book would not really be appropriate for young adult readers, I don't think. Although I say that, but I almost would be interested to see how a like 17 or 18-year-old would read and interpret this book, because me as an adult reading it, obviously I have, you know, thoughts about like, oh, you know, thoughts about the events, whereas a 17 or 18-year-old reading it might not have the same opinion and might see things in the book a little bit differently than I do. But yeah, so that was very vague, but just know that if you are an adult who likes thriller novels, this is a good one, and this was my first Frieda McFadden book. I'm a little bit nervous that I will have kind of the same phenomena, I guess we could use that word, that I had with Colleen Hoover, in that I started with Verity, this like really deeply messed up psychological thriller, and none of her other books have quite hit like Verity did. And that could just be the genre, because most of her other books are romance. But, which Verity did have romance. It's very spicy. But Verity was also very much a psychological thriller. And this one is actually classified as a psychological thriller. So maybe that's the shtick. Maybe I just need to do more psychological thriller books and less like thriller murder mystery books. But anyway, I think that is all I want to say, but I will say that I'm nervous that The Housemaid and the other books by Frieda McFadden won't be as good as this one, in my opinion. And just like that, we are done gluing the puzzle. And I did buy a frame that was slightly too big, but the first frame I bought was too small, so c'est la vie. Anyway, read The Housemaid. Frieda McFadden actually has a lot of other books, all considered to be mind-bending thrillers. The Coworker, One by One, The Locked Door, and Never Lie. Obviously, I was intrigued by this one because it's called The Teacher, and I am a teacher. And I do think teachers would get, you know, maybe a deeper appreciation for this book and maybe feel deeper feelings about this book than somebody who's not a teacher. But then again, like reading it as a teacher, there were pieces that were very tough to kind of think about and wrap my mind around. And I wrote this in my Goodreads review as well, but this book really does not paint teachers in a great light. And it kind of is like, oh, this is why teachers get bad reputations, because of stuff like what happens in this book. So that kind of gives you a little bit as to what happens. But yeah, I feel like the writing is phenomenal. Sometimes thriller writers will like drop breadcrumbs throughout to kind of get you to look in one direction. That is not how I felt about this one. I had predictions, but I was trying to like think outside the box with my predictions, if that makes sense. Like, but Frieda McFadden had me looking in all directions. Like, I could not land on one suspect. I could not land on one character that did it. Like, I was all over the place. And then the ending, I was not even close. Like, what happened, I did not even think was going to happen. So I thought she did a phenomenal job in that respect. And yeah, I think that everybody should read it. I'm kind of sad that I have to return it to the library. And actually, one last thing, speaking of the breadcrumbs, after the epilogue, I was so much in shock that I actually went back and reread one of the chapter. Like, I went back and like found the specific part that I was looking for and reread it to see if there were any clues that would have led me there. And there was only like one clue but now, looking back, I know that it was a clue, but before, when I was actually reading it, I never would have put 2 and 2 together. So, all of these possibilities, never even thought. Anyway, read it. It's a great book. It's a 5-star read. One of the only 5-star reads that I've had this year. And like I said, make sure you check out my Thriller Books rating scale and my regular book review scale, because I realized that I haven't actually done that. I've never actually sat down and told you guys this is what a 5-star read is for me, this is 4, this is 3. And so I have that video up as well. So make sure you go check that out. And as always, thank you so much for watching. And I will see you guys next time when we review book number 29.